What are the challenges facing New Zealanders in the decades to come?
Robots.
I thought that too. That was my first thought, automatisation.
I definitely think the changing nature of work and automation, and in that respect, kind of the decimation of a lot of those roles, like, for example, the likes of accountancy is assumed to be on the line. Certain jobs that junior lawyers used to do. That's actually something that I did in my final year of law, looking at IP and IBM software. I also think climate change and inequality.
I definitely agree with climate change. You can't tell me that our playtime over the last 200 years with the Industrial Revolution hasn't had some impact. I grew up in Maia Bridge. When I was a kid, you can go near the water in the harbour. 10-year restoration project. 20 years later, you can swim in the puppy and you can get food from it. So just seeing something so localised in such a short period of time, I mean, does it happen on a larger scale than that?
Or it should. Talking about things like climate change, New Zealand is going to be under a lot of pressure, especially with our ample natural resource. But further, particularly looking at our neighbours in the Pacific and the effects of climate change, there's going to be a lot of people who are affected by that. And I personally think that that's a responsibility that we have to bear, given that we are, us in Australia, in the Pacific, we're contributing a heck of a lot more carbon than they are.
If we haven't got an environment to live in, then everything else, it doesn't matter. Exactly. Like if you're, having to carry a gun and shoot your neighbour for food, which is pretty dark.
We're hoping it doesn't get dystopian.
Yeah.
I'm fine shotty them.
Good. Well, I'm going to start taking lessons. But I feel that climate change, jobs, they're all obviously totally you can't separate them from each other. So they're all pressing and they're all dire. I feel like we're all of these are actually at a crisis point. And talking about boldness earlier, those are the kind of actions that I think need to happen now, to ensure 30 years down the line. It really does need to be quite radical changes, hard and fast, particularly on the climate stuff.
Yeah, as much as it would be fun to live like Mad Max for maybe the first couple of days or so, we could all benefit from cleaner air, cleaner water, clean environment. That's not a left-right issue. But my sort of gripe at the moment is a lot of the people behind the whole big, scary, demonic climate change, like Al Gore, they're so nihilistic and pessimistic about it. In actuality, we're on the way back up. We are on the upswing from the 50s and 60s when pollution was at its worst. I don't have all the facts and figures on me, but there's evidence to show that we are on the way back up. We are improving our lot in terms of the environment.
Is it an attitude thing that's changed? I ask that because perhaps, if we jump in the DeLorean and head back to 1950s house whānau, and we had this discussion about climate change with them, do you think it's going to be as an engaged discussion as perhaps it with someone or a family from now? I don't think so, so I agree with you. I agree that there is a shift. I'm not sure if there's a change, but there is a shift in attitude. But does that change in, say, our economic approach to the world? I'm not sure. Does it change to our political approach?
I think that those are two separate things. You're, I believe, addressing our cultural kind of grasp of climate change at the moment, and most New Zealanders and most people in the developed world have now grasped that that is a major issue which is facing us. Whereas I'm not quite sure where you're getting your figures from, not to attack in any way, shape or form.
It could be wrong. I'm not sure.
I know for a fact that, and I don't mean to turn this into a partisan thing, but over the last 9 years, our carbon emissions have gone up by 19%. So that, our emissions are actually increasing, and we're not doing enough.
Sorry, when you use the pronoun "our," is that New Zealand worldwide,
New Zealand's
specifically
emissions,
New Zealand's emissions.
Our emissions have increased by 19%. So, but I think that it's really important that when we talk about climate change, and further when we talk about the issues that are facing New Zealand in the next kind of 30 years is now our arbitrary figure for the next few decades, that we do come at it from a value lens perspective. And I think what's really cool about 2017 is we've got the likes of Max Harris, and his book, The New Zealand Project, which is really challenging the notion of what politics in modern New Zealand looks like. I've been really fortunate to travel around the country quite a lot recently, and talking to different audiences, I'll ask them, what are we proud of in New Zealand at the moment? What do we stand for? And I'll get people telling me, our stance against the Springbok tour, or our anti-nuclear stance, or some people even harking back to the likes of the suffragette movement. And then I have to say, well, no, in 2017, what do we stand for? And the optimists will go, oh, we're clean and green, or, we're an equitable society. But the unfortunate reality is that that's so far divorced from the truth, but that's still the story that we tell ourselves. But we're not so far removed from, that story that we can't claw it back. I think that we just need to face why we've got this really uncomfortable cognitive dissonance, where we want to hold that story but not face the facts and reality, to actually ensure that reality matches up with that narrative, which I think would be awesome for all of us.
Masses' attitudes influence what we're going to put into policy, doesn't it?
Oh, totally.
And that was effectively my entire point. And it's just nice to see that the attitudes are changing. But like Chloe mentioned, it seems the stats are telling us that our behaviours aren't.
But I think as well, we can't have antagonistic politicians either. I think that we have to have, a system which...
Matua! Matua! Matua!
We need an invitation for kind of discourse, really, to say it in the most wanky intellectual way ever. But we need to be having conversations around the dinner table, and I think perhaps we've lost that in our culture as well.
If you went back in time to the 1950s, to the average, I want to say baby boomers, but that was when they were born. Wasn't
that was when they were born,
Whatever generation that is, and you ask them about recycling, you're just going to get blank stares, aren't you? Recycling and other environmentally...
Well, they didn't need to, because they were already doing it.
No.
So they were already taking their glass jars to get things filled in.
True, that wasn't the plastic thing hadn't happened yet.
Yeah, so they didn't need recycling.
So it's people really,
because they were already doing it.
It's really our parents, I would have known.
Yeah.
But that's the thing, they also weren't aware, and it was marketed as this wonder material, in the same way that nylon was marketed.
I mean, that is human process though, like, ooh, this is something cool. 30 years later,
well, we realise our wrongs, But I think that's something which is actually quite heartening, I think, learning from our mistakes.
But the big trouble today, and I find the most frustrating value that even I fall victim to, is people want instant gratification. They want it everything, and they want it yesterday. And that's the same with a switch from our primary source of fuels. I honestly, I wouldn't feel comfortable just overnight going aeolian, solar, water, whatever. Hospitals, vital infrastructure.
It's not going to happen overnight. There's no way it's going to be able to happen overnight either. And that's why the investment really needs to happen now, as you're saying. But yeah, that's the thing. It requires long-term planning.
And also it's about taking the way we live now and finding, not going, okay, we're going to go back and live how we were living in the 50s, because you're right, that's completely, but it's it's kind of exciting for every shitty thing that you see. I feel like there are all these amazing people in the world making products and things which are reusable, which are compostable, which you really can't tell the difference between using that and a plastic thing. So it's replacing the convenience that we have, but with something that is sustainable.
But I think there's something else as well inherent in the fact that you're talking about the instant gratification and people's inability, perhaps, I don't know how a better way to phrase it, but with those really monolithic kind of challenges of our time. And I think that's particularly pertinent with climate change. Most people know that climate change is a thing now, but they don't quite grasp how their individual efforts may contribute to climate change or help curb climate change or what have you. They also don't quite grasp necessarily how voting for a policy might go about changing the effects that we as human beings have on the planet. And we quite frequently as well find ourselves talking about climate change in terms of the planet, in terms of, we have to save Earth. The fact of the matter is that the planet will be fine. You know, the planet has been through climate changes before, it's been through ice ages. It's us.
Yeah.
And all of the other species we're going to bring down with us that are going to be in trouble. So,
in saying that, I get funny looks from environmentalists and from climate change skeptics when I say, well, isn't it kind of inevitable? Isn't that what happens on Earth? That it goes through desertification and ice
Yes, but
age
nothing
and
at the rate. Like, it's undeniable that human impact has accelerated this. And as Chloe said, it's not Earth, it's our, as humans' survival on it that we need to be.
Yeah,
we separate the question. I couldn't agree with you. Climate change appears scientifically to have its own natural processes throughout the world and throughout time. Don't disagree with that at all. Second question. You're telling me that really our behaviour over the last 200 years hasn't had an impact on the world? I couldn't believe that. Just from like I said, I explained a nice little story.
We're allowed to use our phones because I'll find a graph. We're contributing. We're contributing on a massive scale. Young Nat's also agreed to carbon neutral by 2050. So
Well, we did.
Yeah, you just now need to lobby the major part of the Big Brother party.
Well, Chloe does stats.
Well, they'll age, they'll die.
I don't have much more to
I'm
add.
going to turn my card over and okay. So the biggest problem of the world is not climate change or overpopulation. The biggest problem is poor thinking.
The trouble is people are good at thinking about themselves and not for themselves.
Explain.
And people, they're very, and that's why I have to say why people like Jeremy Corbyn and Bernie Sanders got so popular. You know, they were promised all these free goodies at the expense of their own freedoms. It was sort of just a groupthink that it was for them. They sort of had no consideration for the consequences of that vote other than, what can you do for me?
Do you really think that was the case?
Yeah.
I think it was a direct saying no to the status quo. I think the people that supported that direction have had enough of the
Bernie
current
Sanders,
direction.
Jeremy Corbyn, they're war hawks, they're career politicians. They were not what people thought they were.
Same could be said for everyone sitting in that parliament. No?
You understand Jeremy Corbyn was a peace campaigner.
Bernie Sanders, I know for a fact, was in favour of the Iraq War.
This is nitpicking though, in the sense that like trying to find a fault in perhaps a strong figure of the left. We could do the same with the right, just to make a point so we have polar opposites. Because I like to be fair, so we know what we're talking about. Because currently, I just feel what we're doing now here in Aotearoa in terms of many of our policies don't seem to work for most. We have a look at the US, Mr. Sanders.
Suggesting that scary S word, socialism?
Socialism kind of came with who? Karl Marx. Don't know the man. Never seen him. Wish we could have hung out. Seems like a nice guy. Rasputin, I think he was hanging around that time. Russian communism. I'm being facetious and both facetious and foolish. My point is that's for its time, and so is the word socialism. It's not appropriate for now. Is there anything there we can use for now?
We've got the highest rate of inequality that we've ever had since the 1980s when we first started collecting detailed data. The top 1% in our country owns 3 times the wealth of the bottom 50%.
Yeah, correct. It's disgusting. I'm from Papakura. That has the highest rate of unemployment in the entire country. I know firsthand how hard it is for people in, first world, developed, all those nice words, New Zealand. It is disgusting, but you cannot legislate one group of people into prosperity by legislating another out. If you divide up the wealth of those top 3%, I think it comes to something like $47 for everybody else. They're not wealthy because everybody else is poor. That's just creating a scapegoat in the wealthy for the poor. It's not helpful. It's just like blaming immigrants or refugees.
I think that's quite the straw man, respectfully. So, the fact of the matter is that the system is man-made. The current legislative system and structures that we have in place and regulations and the tax and what have you. And also in talking about the terminology socialism being a really dirty word or whatever, New Zealand is actually quite a socialist country insofar as we have provision of basic social goods in terms of education, in terms of healthcare, in terms of public transport, all the rest. It's the same with countries like Sweden or those Nordic countries that we often point to as pinnacles of where we should be going. Essentially, all I was saying there is it doesn't have to be that way, and essentially, that is in a nutshell. And talking about scapegoating on the top earners or whatever. What we've got at the moment, particularly with the reaction to Meteria's announcement on Sunday, is people saying that, those greedy beneficiaries, let's not give them any more money so that they can have the dignity to get themselves out of poverty. But those same people were the same people who are going, how dare you think about taxing me more on my $150,000 per year? Those people have enough to survive. And that's not to say that, look, I get the notion that we earn our wealth and all the rest, but if that is the case and if that holds up across society, then why are single mothers who are working 80 hours a week not the wealthiest? You know what I mean? It doesn't equate.
Yes.
And you can then appeal to smart investment or otherwise, but you need to have the headspace and the education and, dare I say it, the privilege to be able to have that space to do that.
Yeah, no, I agree. Personally, I'm all for giving people a hand up. There's nothing wrong with that. Upward mobility is such an important thing.
Totally, and it's disappearing at the moment.
I'm going to paraphrase a Yale economist whose name escapes me at the moment. If you were to give someone earning $1 a day, suddenly give them $5 a day, that just doesn't hold up economically. That's going to put prices up and wages up and turn, that whole wage price spiral thing. So this is a terribly rough explanation. But if you give them the opportunity to progress upwardly mobile from factory floor to management or whatever it is, slowly, it's that instant gratification thing, they're going to have a better shot at life than if you just suddenly legislate them into prosperity. And I think that's
not what we're advocating for.
No, not at all. But just sort of as a general policy matter.
But that's the point, is we're just saying, if we're talking explicitly about the Greens policy on Sunday, then that is essentially saying that we are going to institute what is best characterised, I believe, in terms of, the best way that I've come up to talk about it, talking to people around the country recently, is it's a guaranteed basic income. So people cannot fall below the poverty line. I don't think that is legislating people into prosperity. That is giving people dignity so that they then can get themselves into a place of prosperity.
Okay, yeah. Sorry, I'm a little bit behind on the political.
No, that's totally cool. That's totally cool.
The new policy is UBI. Everybody gets it.
It's not a UBI because UBI is universal unconditional basic income, and it's not a universal unconditional basic income, but it's essentially allowing for a dignified safety net. So that people are not, the current state of affairs, if you fall into poverty. So if you're able to get it.
That's different from welfare.
It is welfare. That's the point. Yeah, but the UBI as well is welfare. All of it is welfare.
Yes.
All of it is the state providing money.
UBI is probably a bad idea. If you're going to give everybody from the poorest, lowest net worth to Graham Hart the same amount of money, that's...
Well, the idea behind the UBI and how you distribute it out actually is that you end up taxing the money back from the rich in terms of the UBI that you distribute to them. But it's just that it's the notion of it is that it's a more simplistic welfare system.
Are we going to be able to hold 10 million people if we want our population to grow to 10 million in 30 years? What are we going to have to do for that? Infrastructure, etc., etc. I don't mind having people come in. I don't care about people coming in.
I think we need to make some bold moves in this country, and I think in terms of climate change, what we've talked about a lot tonight, we should be ploughing a lot of money into science and research and seeing how we can be frontline in the world.
Well, I just want to say thank goodness we live in New Zealand. We're not America, we're not Europe, where we have hugely divisive politics and the issues that come with that, the terrorism, the violence, the unadulterated hatred, and where our people on all sides of the spectrum can still have a civil discussion, a drink, whatever.
I think that we as a country need to be talking about our values, which is a discussion which really came to the fore tonight, and that means asking where we want to be and who we want to be, whether that be in the world or in relation to each other. And I think that values framework is a really good place to start in terms of then starting to position ourselves economically, in terms of equality, in terms of the housing that we provide for our people and otherwise.
Kia ora, tēnā koutou guys. We've run out of time and that's our discussion for this week. Thank you for joining us with Speakeasy. We'll see you again. Cheers guys.
Kia ora.